Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. We were discussing Sunakkhatta Sutta, available in Majjhima Nikaya. And just to summarize what we discussed yesterday, basically there are situations that we sometimes overestimate ourselves, thinking that we have achieved something, we have attained something. So there are such mistaken views probably can arise in ourselves. So same matter is discussed in this sutta, available in Majjhima Nikaya. And at that time, Buddha was living at Vesali, which is governed by the Lichavis. And at that time there were many monks approaching the Buddha and explaining that they have become arahant, they have become fully enlightened. And so this was observed by Lichavi's son called Sunakkhatta. So he is little doubtful about it, whether they are really arahants or whether they are mentioning it out of overestimation. So once these monks left, so this Sunakkhatta, the Lichavi's son, approached the Buddha and asked the same question. Are these monks really arahants or are they telling such thing out of overestimation? Then Buddha actually gave an answer mentioning that some are really arahants. Some are true arahants. They really have practiced well and they are able to attain full enlightenment, and they are coming and explaining that, mentioning that to the Buddha, and there are such true arahants. And on the other hand, there are others who are basically overestimating themselves, and they are also coming and telling that I am an arahant, but they are not really. So Buddha mentioned the both that in that sense. And after mentioning that, Buddha goes on explaining certain traits in the people. So that is what we discuss in brief. And actually yesterday we discussed some practical points like where we can go wrong, where we can overestimate ourselves, where we misunderstand the practice. So that certain practical parts we discussed yesterday. Today if we get on to the real details of the sutta, now Buddha explains how certain groups of people, how they are associating, how their minds are working. So typically we are fond of seeing the beautiful things, beautiful sights, sceneries, which are agreeable and likable, desired, wished for, and again they are in a way provocative of lust, so provocative of attachment, provocative of desires. Similarly, there are things that we like to hear, maybe music, maybe songs. They are agreeable, desired, wished for, and provocative of lust, provocative of desires. Similarly, there are, say, odors, smells. Those are pleasant and desired for, going after, very pleasant, desired for, and that also provocative of lust, provocative of desires. Similarly, there are, say, delicious food, etc. So, which produce some taste, good taste, and that also we wish for, and we are going after that, after those, and that also produce some amount of lust, desires in ourselves. Similarly, Buddha mentioned there are, say, tactile sensations, what we touch, through the touch what we get. So that is also sometimes desired, wished for, attractive, we are going after them, and through associating them, there's a fair amount of lust produced in our minds. So these are sometimes called as 5 chords of sensuality, Panchakama Guna, and this is what we consider as the achievement in a way. This is what we are trying hard to obtain. This is what typically people are going after. And Buddha mentioned if a person is more in line with such desires, If a person is more attuned to those kind of attitudes, so then he talks of the same thing and he likes to talk in that. Similarly, he is thinking, continuously he is thinking how to achieve more and more, how to say entertain, how to enjoy these things. So that is how his mind is working, going after these things and thinking about the same things. Similarly, he likes to associate the same type of people. Another person assumes that he is also pursuing with these kind of achievements, sensual desires, sensual gratification. So this person also really have good companionship with that such a person. And when they are going through that discussion, they are quite satisfied. So that is not difficult to understand. So this is how we can see how people are getting together, going for parties, having, say, ceremonies. So likewise, this is what typically happen. And Buddha mentioned, this is very much like a simile Buddha given, like when going through this discussion, it is more agreeable, they desire for such discussion, they like to listen to other person, how he is doing this and that, how he is enjoying senses. So there's a simile given, like we discussed yesterday. A person left the village for a long time ago, and now he meets another person coming from the same village, but he left little while ago, recently. Now, unlike today, they don't have any kind of communication, so they only can know the village status or present news only from this kind of people who left the village recently. So therefore, when he knew that this person is from the same village, probably he recognized him, so and so, and now the company is very good, because he is asking how their family is doing, how the, say, other villagers are doing, how their relatives are doing, how his parents are doing, how his wife and children are doing. So likewise, a lot of things are there to discuss, because this person, this new person, is a person who is coming from the village, same village, recently left. But the other person has left the village long time ago. So this company is quite desired. Similarly, Buddha mentioned, a person who is going after this sensual gratification like to discuss with another person who is doing the same thing. Now Buddha is going to explain the spiritual side. After explaining this kind of typical mundane type of activity, then now Buddha is explaining the different aspect, alternatives that we have in our lives. Now, first alternative is given with respect to the concentration. So there are people who have a lot of good concentration so that they can achieve jhana. So they are able to attain to jhana and be with such kind of a higher concentration that is more blissful, enjoyable. So they like to be there. So assume that they are able to achieve first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana. And the fifth one, that is the boundless space, akasananchayatana. Then the viññānañcāyatana, that is the boundless consciousness. So typically in this sutta, ānenja samapatti is the term used. So that is typically is mentioned at the fourth jhana and the fifth and sixth. If someone is able to achieve such thing, it's something wonderful. It's not something trivial, but it is something that one can really enjoy, because he can completely be away from the sensual desires, completely be away from all the troubles coming from the world. He can maintain a very high concentration and mind is fairly open. So it's a very blissful experience. So therefore Buddha mentioned, if he is thinking about it, he is quite happy about it. So I did a lot of hard work. I was able to achieve this kind of a concentration. And not only that, he talks about the same thing, how to achieve it, how to attain, how to master jhana, what are the, say, techniques available, what are the methods available to achieve such jhana. It is not the same method available, there are many methods available. So he likes to explore in that area. He likes such discussion. Similarly, when he is talking with another person, if such person he met, who also is intent to achieve such kind of a jhanic practice, then such company is really going well. Because he met a kind of a companion, he is also practicing same thing. He is also fond of attaining jhana, staying in the absorptions, enjoying it. So the company, the discussion is quite really going on. I mean, there's a kind of a cordial discussion. And that discussion is quite satisfactory to them. Now, Buddha is now comparing this group of people with the previous group. Assume that if another person coming from the previous group, who is more into the sensuality, more into the sensual gratification, who is coming and trying to discuss with this second category of person, then the company doesn't go on really well. Because for the second group, Buddha is giving a simile. It's very much like a leaf fallen from a tree after it become ripened. So now you can't fix it back. You can't fix it back onto the tree and make it green again. It's impossible. Similarly, Buddha mentioned, who is more into this spiritual practice, more into the concentration practice, lived that for a long time, it's very unlikely that he is going and discussing on the sensuality, talking this a lot of sensual gratification, going after, say in today's terms, going after for a musical show, maybe to a scenery, so this and that. So typical mundane type of sensual gratification, so he is not that interested. So that is, you can understand, I mean, even in this is not really Buddhism, actually this is available even in Hinduism. So people are able to achieve higher concentrations, and that they do it with a lot of dedication. And once they do that, and their life is more dedicated towards such achievements. And even before the Buddha's arising, you know, there is Asita, that who has all this abhiññā, and he was in the celestial realm when Prince Siddhartha was born. You have heard that, right? And similarly, when Buddha approaches other ascetic teachers, Alara Kalama, Uddhakarama Putta, so they are also very capable people who have a lot of higher concentrations, absorptions. So such things are not limited to Buddha's teaching. That is the second part. So whoever in line with this kind of a spiritual practice, more biased towards the concentration, they are also not really into the sensuality. They like to spend time in this kind of an achievement. So for them it is more interested. And now Buddha is going further. He is talking about the seventh jhana, what we call Akinchanyayatana, that is called nothingness. First, actually, the discussion goes on into the concentration side. So when he is talking about the nothingness, suppose that there is a person who has reached nothingness. That is much better than the previous ones. And when he is thinking about that, when he is applying his mind to that, so he really enjoys it, he really appreciates it. And if he finds a companion who is of the same level and talking about the same subject, their company is doing well. So they are companies really a cordial discussion. And they find satisfaction in such company. Now, Buddha is comparing. Now, a person who is fond of Akinchanyayatana, this nothingness, when he is talking with a previous group, who are with the imperturbability, that is the, say, fourth jhana or sixth jhana, that group. What do you think? The one with the nothingness is more advanced when compared to the previous group. So if they are started to talk, they are not really matching. So there's a simile given here. Buddha mentioned when a thick stone is split, you can't fix it again. So similarly, Buddha mentioned the fetter of previous levels are not available in the one who is practicing nothingness, akinchanyayatana. So he may not be able to come back to the previous one. He simply like to go be in the nothingness. For him, say, fourth jhana or akasa nanchayatana, viññānañcāyatana is not that favorable, not that enjoyable, because he is experiencing something more, that is nothingness, akinchanyayatana. So therefore for him, it is very much like a splitted stone which can't be fixed, so he is not going back to the previous ones. So that is the example given, simile given. So this person really enjoys such category of people. If same group is there, so he likes it. Now to give an example, when Buddha reaches, or rather Buddha to be, Bodhisattva, reaches Alara Kalama, so he is in that group. So all the students, it is mentioned around 500 students were there in that group, they are more fond of achieving that attainment, that concentration, what you call the akinchanyayatana. Now there's another group. Now Buddha is going to explain the 8th jhana, neva saññā na saññāyatana. What you call as neither perception nor non-perception. And assume that there's a person who is able to achieve it, and he is now enjoying it, being able to stay there for a long time, and his mind is now registered there. His mind is now fairly familiarized on such situation, and when he is thinking about it, achieving it, he is really enjoying it. And when he is talking to another person, he likes to talk about the same subject. If he is finding another person who also on the same category, who is also trying to achieve such kind of neither perception nor non-perception, such kind of a very high concentration, so that their company is really going well, because the newcomer is also attuned to that. So his desires are the same, very same. So their company is going well. But on the other hand, now if he finds a person who is in the previous category, who is talking about the nothingness, then such company doesn't go well, because this person is much higher than the previous one. Now just to give an example, when Bodhisattva going in search of teachers, so he ended up with, he come across Uddakarāmaputta, who is also a well-achieved teacher, and who also had 500 students. So he is with this neither perception nor non-perception, neva saññā na saññāyatana. So that group is equipped with this kind of a very high concentration. So all these people who are coming there, achieving it, trying to achieving it, enjoying it, explaining it, teaching it, are more attuned to that kind of an achievement, that kind of an attainment. And assume that someone in that group meeting the previous group. So Buddha is going step by step, meeting the previous group. Then their company is not going really well, because this group is much higher than the previous group. So Buddha giving another simile here, it's very much like when there are some delicious food available and you eat something and now you throw it away. So once you thrown away the food, eating it again is not likable, right? I mean, you feel it as kind of disgusting, stale food, so you don't like to eat what is thrown away. Similarly, Buddha mentioned the group, a person who is enjoying the neither perception nor non-perception, so for him, nothingness is something like stale food, thrown away food. He doesn't want to enjoy that. Now we are coming to the last stage. Now there is another person who is intent on Nibbana. Are you in that group? Now there are other people who are intent on that Nibbana. Now you can see, when Buddha is explaining, so far very high concentrations are explained, and a separate category is explained as a group of people who are intent on Nibbana. So you can see kind of a distinction is there. So even a person with nothingness, it's a very high concentration, arupa jhana, still they might not intend on Nibbana. There may be a group of people who have achieved neither perception nor non-perception, very high concentration, 8 jhana, might not intend on Nibbana. Now, just to give an example, say when Bodhisattva approached Alara Kalama, they were in the Rupa Jhana, but the Bodhisattva didn't really felt now this as the end. Only he left. Whole other group, have they accompanied the Bodhisattva? No. They simply stuck there. So their minds are not really intent on Nibbana. They presume, okay, this is it, this is the end. Nothingness as the end. So similarly, when he reaches Uddakaramaputta, that group, 500 people plus the teacher, Uddakaramaputta, and the Bodhisattva also have achieved it. And when he is leaving that group, thinking or understanding now, this is not the end, this is not the real Nibbana, this is not the complete enlightenment, this is just a temporary achievement. When he is leaving that group, nobody accompanied him. They are stuck there. So you can understand. So when people get absorbed to these kind of very high concentrations, so there's a tendency in the mind, again and again the mind will go there. Mind is very much like programmed to go there. Once you sit, after some time it is there. Again once you sit, next day, after some time, mind goes there. Now it is very much like mind is conditioned to stay there. So this is something happen in concentration practice. So as you master a particular jhana, so your mind get registered there. So once you sit, automatically mind go and stuck there. So there are advantages, there are disadvantages in this kind of a programmed nature, this kind of a conditioned nature. Suppose that you want to go further. So if you want to go further, you have to give up this. Now Buddha did it. Bodhisattva did it. He was not satisfied with nothingness, akinchanyayatana. He is not satisfied with the group led by this Alara Kalama. He left Uddakaramaputta and the group who are in the neither perception nor non-perception, neva sanya na sanyayatana. So he has the capability to leave them. But there are many people who are able to achieve such kind of a very high blissful absorption, concentration, but unfortunately they get stuck there. So that is a kind of a danger in samadhi, concentration. And on top of that, once you are there, there is a higher tendency to overestimate. Because these concentrations are much, much stronger concentrations that will prevent any defilement coming in. Say if you ask a person who is practicing nothingness, whether he get lustful thoughts, definitely he will say no. If you ask from a person who is practicing nothingness, whether he is getting any angry thoughts, definitely he will say no. So such strong concentrations, it will prevent any hindrances coming in. He may not get sensual desires. He may not get ill will. He may not enjoy this not coming under the influence of sloth and torpor, thina middha. His mind is not restless, not agitated, and have no doubts. So therefore, hindrances are far away. So there is a higher possibility. One can think this as the ultimate, this as the end. This is the best. So that is why if they achieve it and attain to the Brahma realms, for eons they are there. So these are the practices not only available to the Buddhism, but available to the other religions as well. And there are such Brahma realms explained in the Dhamma as well. Different levels are explained. Say if one has practiced first jhana to different levels, and actually it is mentioned to the best level, to the middle level, to the lower level. Accordingly, the corresponding Brahma realms are there. If one practices second jhana, to the best level, there's a corresponding Brahma level. To the middle level, there's a corresponding Brahma level. To the lower level, the mild level, then corresponding Brahma realm. So likewise, if you consider the kind of world view with respect to these jhanic attainments, it's very different. And when they are enjoying that, so for eons they are there. Because concentration is so powerful, till that concentration is available, so they are in such Brahma realms. You are temporarily enjoying that while you are being here, when you are actually practicing that particular jhana. So therefore it's also a beautiful thing, blissful thing, something. So that's why people are practicing and they are enjoying, and they sit to attain to that kind of a concentration. And sometimes they stuck there, don't want to leave that. And they get the wrong conception or misconception, thinking that this is it. I am fully enlightened. Because no lust available, no greed available, no ill will available, no doubts available. They are far away. For years they are not getting such defilements. So there could be a possibility for overestimation, thinking, I am now an enlightened being. I am now an arahant. So this is another area people can go wrong. And on top of that, in Brahmajala Sutta, Buddha mentioned there are very many wrong views can come to a person with higher concentration. There are 62 wrong views mentioned in the Brahmajala Sutta. I think 47 are for the one with higher concentration. So you can see, even the spiritual practice seems like, confusing. There are many areas that person can go wrong. So that is why we need to be careful in a way how to verify whether we are following the same thing, whether we are following the correct thing, or are we stuck with something wrong. So therefore we need to explore what we do. We need to investigate whether we are following the Buddha's teaching, or are we stuck with someone else's thing. Are we thinking, are we following something that Buddha has neglected or Buddha has dropped? Now just to give an example, say, now there are many Hindu traditions, cultures, rituals have come to Sri Lanka, as we discussed even during the question and answer session. But later, when it is available with the people for a long time, the next generations who are born, now they find, okay, my parents are doing it, my parents are doing a kind of a ritual, but they don't know from where it has come. So they think, okay, this is Buddhist, so this is a Buddhist practice. Now there are many deities, there are many devas, Kali Amma, Ramma, Me Amma, so these many deities are there. So now Buddhists think, okay, this is Buddhism. Because it was there in the country for a long time, and we don't know from where it has begun, from where it has come to the country, and we think, so it is also Buddhist. So likewise, there are many things that we need to clarify in a way. So as a religion is growing, there are many other unnecessary stuff also come and join to the teaching. So how to find the real core? How to find the essence? Very difficult. So what you come across at the beginning is very much like the outer sheath. You can't really find the core immediately. So that is why we have to practice. We have to practice and see what really Buddha has taught, and how we may experience the same teaching what Buddha has taught. Or are we following something blindly? So these are the things that we need to verify as true practitioners if we want to. Now, Buddha is talking about a person who is intent on Nibbana. Now, when someone is intent on Nibbana, so he likes to think about in that line. Maybe letting go, maybe non-conditioning, removing all the conditioned nature of the mind, keeping the mind free from defilements. So likewise, we can get something from the Buddha's teaching and maybe following the Noble Eightfold Path, Sila Samadhi Panya, morality, concentration and wisdom. So likewise, there are certain attributes of the teaching. Say one can say, okay, he is more intent on Nibbana. So if someone is talking on the same line, then he really like to have that company. So he may enjoy such kind of a discussion. And if he is thinking, pondering, he is thinking in that way. How to remove defilements, how to, say, decondition the mind, how to attain to the unconditioned, rather than being a conditioned mind, how to have unconditioned, how to go for calming down of all proliferations, free from mental proliferation, how to calm down all mental formations, how to go for inner silence. So then we can say, okay, he is more attuned towards Nibbana, calming down proliferation, calming down formations. Sabba sankhara samato, sabbupadi patinissaggo, tanhakkayo, virago, nirodho, nibbana. So just a very beautiful definition Buddha is giving. Sabba sankhara samato, calming down all mental formations. Bodily formations, verbal formations, mental formations. Calming down. Now typically our minds are more agitated. Say you see something, immediately we are putting something from ourselves to it. Say a small mental image come into the mind, and we don't stop at that level. We are connecting another thing, what we have heard, what we have seen, what we have learned. And so we color the image. And we are adding something more and more. What we have learned, we are adding. So we do some kind of a construction process. That is what we call as sanskara. So ultimately the mind will end up with thinking something beautiful, something creative, and we attribute that image to somebody. This is my mother, this is my father, this is my son, this is my daughter. And now we start to think about him, think about her. So all these constructions are continuously happening in our mind. But on the opposite, Buddha's teaching, Buddha talks about calming down mental proliferation, calming down sanskara, calming down these mental formations, having a visankhara gata citta, having a mind free from constructions. Sabbupadi patinissaggo, relinquishing the assets. These assets is not really your house and vehicles and etc., but assets of I-making. So I am a person, I am so and so, I have this kind of knowledge, I have this kind of education, I have these kinds of skills. Whatever the ways that we make a self, whatever the things we carry with ourselves to make a self, so those are the assets, those are the upadi. Say you are going to a different country, assume that you are going to Australia. Now once you go there, so you have kind of a asset in your mind. So, okay, I am while I was in Sri Lanka, I did this kind of a profession. Say you are a doctor. No, I was a doctor while I was in Sri Lanka. So that is an asset to you. So with that you identify yourself. I am so and so. I had this kind of lands. I went to this college. I went to this university. These are my children. And these are my achievements, these are the research papers I have published. So many things are there to recognize ourselves, to show ourselves, to explain ourselves, to put ourselves into the CV. So this is how we present ourselves to the other people. And these are all upadis. So Buddha talks about calming down upadis. It is not really that you disclaim and say I am nobody and I don't want anything, now I am a monk. So that is kind of a forcefully you do it. But on the other hand, what really expected is not using any of these upadis to make a self, to make an I, to make a person. So then one can say, okay, calm down upadis, calm down assets. Sabbupadi patinissaggo, tanhakkayo. Eradicating completely the craving. Tanhakkayo, virago. Instead of attachment, instead of passion, instead of lust, one's mind is more attuned towards dispassion. So when you see a beautiful sight, your mind not get involved with it. Your mind may not start to talk about it. Your mind has to maintain inner silence. Say you listen to music. Now even the backyard you can listen some music. So is your mind talking about it? Is your mind ready to enjoy it, thinking about it, or blaming them? Why are these people are doing this, all this nonsense? Why don't they know that we are a meditating group? So that way, I mean, we are making something out of that music. But on the opposite, say music is there, but you are able to maintain inner silence. Similarly, say there are some good odors, incense and etc., perfumes, whatever it is, but your mind is able to maintain its inner silence. Say there are beautiful tastes, delicious tastes, you may feel it, but your mind is not getting involved with it. Mind has its own seclusion. Say there are various sensations, bodily sensations, still you may feel them, but mind is not involved with them. And there may be thoughts coming sometimes, but your mind does not go and construct with it to make it a mental proliferation. You recognize it as a thought, gone. Another thought, gone. Not doing any constructions. What do you think? Is it really difficult? Aren't there any people who can do this? Even in this group, I know some are capable of doing it. So that is what the advice Buddha given to Bahya. Ditte dittamattam bhavissati. Sute sutamattam bhavissati. Mute mutamattam bhavissati. Viññāte viññātamattam bhavissati. It's a kind of a restraint. So when you see something, don't go after it and make a story out of it. Don't write a poem about it. Just leave it aside. Keep your mind quiet. Just continue the inner silence. When you hear something, don't go after it. Don't agitate because of that sound. Just enjoy inner silence. So likewise, so one can achieve what you call tanhakkayo virago. Viraga, kind of a dispassion. It doesn't mean that you are really person who is with lot of negativity or kind of a disgusted kind of a feeling, but you may behave like a normal person. But internally one may experience fair amount of silence. Say one time, one Manavaka, a young person called Subha. So he was assigned a task. The task is from his teacher. His teacher wants to verify the Buddha's character. So he is giving the assignment to Subha. And the task is to check the Buddha. So what this Subha Manavaka did was, he is secretly, we'll use the term secretly following the Buddha. Buddha may definitely know. But he thinks I am secretly following the Buddha and checking the Buddha. Now say it's very much like, say you are going after a thief and you are secretly observing what are the people who are associating, how is eating, what he is doing. So likewise, this Subhamanavaka also following the Buddha and he is checking each and every activity what Buddha is doing. One beautiful statement I like to take from there. So this Subhamanavaka reports now back to his teacher. Rasa patisangvedi chako bhagava nocha rasa raga patisangvedi. Now Buddha, it is not always going on village pindapata. Sometimes he is invited for the lay household life to have dana. And there may be some royal offerings. Say Queen Mallika given a royal offering, King Kosala given royal offerings, maybe Anatha Pindika, he's a wealthy merchant who has given a lot of delicious food, and Visakha, a wealthy person who has given delicious food. So, do you think that Buddha didn't feel the taste? What do you think? Yeah, I mean, if there are beautiful tastes are there, very delicious tastes are there, Buddha too, more than ourselves, so he has more sensitivity into his senses than typical ourselves. So therefore, he is able to know all these tastes. What's the difference then? So he is not attached to it, he is not desiring, he doesn't have greed for that. He doesn't want to go again to the same thing next day thinking, okay, I will get the same food. Because such greed is not there. But he knew that there's a very tasty food. Assume that he went on village Pindapata on yesterday and he get some rough food. Today he went to King Kosala's palace, got the royal food. So you know the difference, okay? This royal food is more tasty, more delicious. He felt the difference, but his mind is not really greedy of that. So this has somehow known by this Subhamanavaka. So he is reporting back to his teacher, telling, Rasa patisangvedi chako bhagava. Buddha know the rasa, Buddha know the taste, but nocha raga patisangvedi. Towards that taste, there is no lust arising in him. There is no greed arising in him. There is no desire arising in him. But the taste is known. So similarly, we can understand. So it is not that one become dull in one's senses. His senses may be really pure. Senses may be really what you call refined. So that he may even know taste, sounds, smells, sights, even more than the other typical beings. But there is no lust, there is no greed, there is no attachment, there is no ill will in their minds. So that is a significant difference. So likewise we can understand, so Buddha is talking a different subject in a way. It is not a kind of an attainment like Arupa jhana, what we discussed, nothingness, neither perception nor non-perception. But Buddha is talking an entirely different language in that way. How to have a mind free from defilements. How to have a mind free from attachment. How to have a mind free from mental proliferation. How to have a mind free from any agitation, free from any stress, any suffering. So that we can safely say, okay, then such mind is Nibbana oriented. So if you are meditating to achieve such, then we can say, okay, your mind is fairly Nibbana oriented. You are not meditating just to attain to a particular jhana and enjoy that very high concentrated blissful state. Rather, you are practicing to have inner clarity, inner calmness, inner silence, freedom from defilements, freedom from craving, to prevent mental proliferation, say to leave all the assets, upadi, and to avoid the constructions, sankhara, calming down all the constructions. So those are the attributes we can, to some extent we can say, then the mind is more Nibbana oriented. Now Buddha is comparing such person with the previous category. A person who is more into the Nibbana, whose mind is more Nibbana oriented, if he meets a person who is from the previous category, whose mind is more oriented with the neither perception nor non-perception, then such company does not go really well, because the Nibbana oriented person is not that attached to a very higher concentration, but he's more geared or more motivated towards the eradication of defilements, calming down mental proliferation, to calm down all the constructions, to uproot craving, to remove ignorance. So those are, more advanced than just achieving some concentration and staying there. So such a person, Nibbana-oriented person, when another person who is discussing about the previous one, neither perception, non-perception, he is not interested. And for him, it is very much like a palm tree with top cut off. You can't fix it again. So he is not interested about those kind of very high concentrated states just being there, because for him the attainment is very much like a palm tree which is top cut off. Now, even the Nibbana oriented person, now definitely he has to go through wisdom practice. It is morality, concentration, wisdom, and the most significant part we can say is the wisdom practice, Vipassana. But there are pitfalls in that as well. So that is something we can discuss, worth discussing. And for a person who is more Nibbana oriented and want to achieve Nibbana, attain Nibbana, and he is now diligently practicing Vipassana, and there are certain areas where he also can go wrong. So that is discussed in Visuddhimagga as 10 fetters, 10 upakkilesa, Vipassana upakkilesa. So these are some worthy things that we need to pay attention. First one is called Obhasa, light. So as you continue a practice, sometimes say maybe your mind is well attuned towards the concentration, then immediately very bright light can appear. Some of you have already experienced this, very bright light. It may not immediately come to that level, maybe certain lights coming and going, unstable, but as you continue your practice, very bright light, nimitta, can appear, and it is kind of opening of the mind, and you feel like somewhat uplifted by seeing this kind of an unseen before kind of a light. So, and you might get attached to it. So you are sitting in order to get that light. Because when you get such thing, it is really motivating. There was no such thing before, it's kind of a surprise. You are practicing Anapanasati, for example. And once Anapanasati is coming to a fair amount of concentration, the nimitta happens and it slowly becomes very brighter, like the sun has come, like a torch has focused to your face. Such kind of a very bright light can happen. And there are many yogis who report that is possible, that they experience. So those are not limited to the book. Even today, many practitioners, when they are practicing Anapanasati especially, so they get these kind of bright light, concentration sign. But unfortunately, they might get attached to it, And sometimes they might think that they are enlightened. So this is considered as a Vipassana Upakkilesa, something that we can go wrong. But unfortunately, there are many people who don't believe that this has an enlightenment. It's very unlikely that people think that this is an enlightenment. But still, a person with more faith but less wisdom can think this is kind of an enlightenment. In the practice we need to balance faith and wisdom. Panya and faith, Panya and Saddha. We have to balance. If you have too much Saddha, so you are always going to the, doing Buddha Anusati and always preaching, Buddha's qualities and offering food, offering flowers. So certain Saddha attributes. And on the other hand, wisdom. They are more into the analyzing, contemplation. So these two has to be balanced. Otherwise, if you don't have much wisdom, only the faith is taken to the front, it's very, very easily someone else may misguide you. And even this kind of light appearing through the meditation might think that you are now enlightened, because less wisdom. So therefore, during the practice, we need to be careful not simply to get on to Saddha. Saddha is needed, but it should slowly turn into some factual Saddha, not simply blind Saddha. So typically at the beginning what we have is called Amulika Saddha, kind of baseless faith. Still we don't know, but since our parents are Buddhist, I am also Buddhist. Since our parents are going to the temple, I am also going to the temple. Since my mother is worshipping the Buddha, I am also worshipping Buddha. So this is how we started. We didn't know who is Buddha. When you are born, do you know who is Buddha? Then why did you go to the temple? Because our parents are Buddhists, so we followed them. So we had kind of a faith. But later, say you are practicing. Now it's a different story. Through your own practice, you recognize who is Buddha. Through your own practice, you are trying to understand what Buddha has really taught. Through his teachings, now we are understanding who is Buddha. So that is more deep, that is more broad, that is more wise. And that is the kind of what we call as Akaravati Saddha, where you are well founded in Saddha. Your Saddha is not anymore kind of based on blind faith. It is based on real conviction. It is based on real facts. You yourself know it now. You yourself know where Buddha was, how he has preached this kind of a Dhamma. In order to preach this kind of a Dhamma, what a kind of a skill he has to have. So then you are in a different level. It is not the blind faith. You are not blindly following, but you know to yourself, experientially you know. So that is more factual. So therefore that is the difference in Buddha's teaching. You are not encouraged to be a blind follower. Your blind faith has to be converted to a factual faith. It has to. If not it is happening, then you are not really thriving in the Dhamma. So you have to find the reality, you have to find the truth, you have to experience the truth for yourself, then only the real Saddha may arise in one's mind. And then the second one, Obhasa Piti. Piti is rapture. Say, assume that you are now practicing Vipassana and you are able to see arising and passing away. It's a very, some deep knowledge that say you are keeping your attention to the body and various elements that you are able to recognize, And now these various elements you can understand, okay, very quickly arising and passing away, very quickly arising and passing away. So by understanding this, you get a lot of piti, a lot of rapture, because this is something that you have heard, you only knew through the book, but now you yourself experience it. And wherever you pay your attention, there it is this arising and passing away happens. It is not that you do it, but those phenomena themselves show that characteristic. It's a kind of a eye-opening sight. So you get a lot of rapture. And probably this rapture, and you get attached to it, and probably you might think, now I am enlightened. So this is another area that one can go wrong. Because these insights might produce a lot of rapture, a lot of happiness, and probably you might think, okay, now I am an enlightened being. Then jnana, wisdom. So as you move forward in the Vipassana practice, a lot of wisdom can arise. Very sharp faculties. Even a slightest thing you can know very well. You have a kind of penetrative knowledge. And you can explain things very precisely, very beautifully to the completion. And you can understand someone else's situation. And you are with a lot of sharp faculties, a lot of wisdom. And you might have read the books on top of that, so you have a lot of theoretical understanding also. So you are now becoming a very wise person. And such situations are there. And you start to talk, you have to preach, and you are overwhelmed with wisdom. There is no control sometimes. You are geared to tell. I want to tell him, I want to teach him. So sometimes you probably meet certain monks, so they can't stop themselves. They are teaching, they want to convince the other person. Many hours, discourses, several hours preaching, and some people are always, they want some people to always preach, because their mind is somewhat in an imbalance. So wisdom has come to a sharpened level, but imbalanced. And they also might think, I am attained, I am an arahant. So this is considered as a Vipassana upakkilesa. And they attach to that achievement. They attach to that kind of a skill. They attach to that kind of a penetrative knowledge. I am with this kind of a skill. I am so and so. I want to convince others. I want to teach others. So hours of preaching, that can happen. I have experienced several monks also. So they sometimes overestimate themselves because very sharp faculties, many hours they can teach, talk, things are coming naturally to explain, not feeling tired, possible. These things are possible. Then passaddhi, tranquility. So you feel lighter. Your mind is quite lighter, your body feels lighter. You don't feel any pain while you are sitting. Hours you can sit without any problem. And while you are doing other works, you feel quite lighter. So then you get attached to that. So this is actually a result of good samadhi. When you have very good samadhi, so it produces fair amount of tranquility. Mind is always calm down. No defilements, no lust, no greed, no hatred. So mind is very pleasant. So you may think, okay, now I am enlightened. And you are attached to that situation. That tranquility state of mind you are get attached to. And therefore you think, now I am fully enlightened. That is possible. Then sukha, happiness, very much going together. So you feel bodily happy, you feel mentally happy. So there is very less worries in the mind. Whatever the dukkha domanassa you had, all are disappeared. Now constantly you feel happy. And you think, now I am an enlightened being, Arahant. And you are attached to it. That happiness, you are sitting just to achieve that happiness. So you are enjoying that happiness. You want that happiness. You want to enjoy that happiness. So your practice is more oriented towards achieving that happiness, being in that happiness. Then adimokka. So emotionally you are aroused, excited. Now when you are continuing your practice, these things can happen sometimes. So you feel really happy. I definitely have to tell my mother. I definitely have to teach my father. I definitely have to teach my daughter. You are really geared. I mean, this Buddha's teaching is so true. I should teach. I'm so excited. Have you ever come across such thing? Because sometimes our faculties get really balanced, or rather balanced, very refined, and you get really excited. Oh my goodness. You can't sleep. You can't sleep, and because till you teach it to someone, till you tell to someone, you are so excited. And you think, now I am enlightened. I'm so excited, I am enlightened. How true Buddha's teaching is. Adimokka. And on such situations, very unlikely that you believe the teacher. Say you are going and explaining to the teacher, Bhante, I did this, I did that, so exciting, so beautiful. Then teacher, get out. Then you get upset with the teacher. This teacher is a foolish fellow. He said, never understood Buddha's teaching. See, now I feel goosebumps. I want to teach. So this teacher is very much like, he's just sweeping the floor, not caring about my excitement. He's just sweeping the floor. He didn't consider my explanation. He didn't give any appreciation to my explanation. So these things are possible. Now I can just give a simple example from Thai tradition. I think that is Ajahn Mun or someone. So one of his students, Ajahn Mun's, you have heard about Ajahn Mun, right? Ajahn Mun. So he's also a very talented teacher, very strict. And one of his students, now his students left Ajahn Mun in search of Nibbana. He left the teacher, this particular student. Now after years, the student returned back to Ajahn Mun. So Ajahn Mun was just sweeping the floor. When the meeting happens, not really, excited by seeing his student, but he's just carrying his own business. He's just sweeping the floor. And he's asking, respecting, telling, Bhante, I returned this and that. Then Ajahn Mun simply asks a question, as far as I can remember, did you find a refuge? That's all he asks. Then fortunately this student also somehow, he has learned something, and then he has answered, yes, Bhante, I have found the teaching, or I have found the refuge. So therefore it's very difficult to really estimate or really assess a person. So if you think, when you are going to meet an Arahant, so what is the figure you have in your mind? So he has to be a well-dressed, always with pleasant words, all the pleasant way of talking, very nice voice, always talking about the Buddha's teaching, very pleasant. Or when you are going, or someone that you simply chase away. So there's another beautiful story. One time King Saddhatissa, the brother of King Dutugamunu, he has heard there is a Arahant in a particular village. So there's a custom in the King Saddhatissa. So once he knew that there is an arahant living in such a monastery, such a temple, so he visit there, he pay respect to that monk, and then some royal support being given to that monk and the rest of the monastery. It is being recognized by the king. Now, there's an arahant in a village, and one day he saw king is coming from the, with his group. Now he saw he's coming to my monastery. Now what he did? Now typically if a king is coming to our monastery, say a president is coming to our monastery, so we prepare a pandal and so, I am welcoming you. So we pay respect, we do all the decorations, and we have a huge list that I need to give this to the president so that he will make our monastery a best one. He will give due recognition, and he will give us better internet, better this and that, because king has recognized, no? So this is the typical approach, no? But what the real arahant did? So he understood, so if king come this way and do this kind of recognition, I may not have seclusion. I may not have my kind of a relaxation. I have been little bothered. I mean, all people may again and again come and ask this and that. They all come and try to respect, because now you have been put on a pedestal. So he didn't want to do that. So what he did? So when king was coming, he simply removed the robe, and just with the inner robe, he has taken a stick, and he is simply drawing something on the road, on the floor, like a crazy person. So now the king and the group coming, now they want to see an arahant, but this monk appear like crazy. He doesn't wear the proper clothing, and he is out of the robe. He simply wear the inner robe, and he is using a stick and simply drawing. How can he become an arahant? So the king thought, okay, my messenger has mistaken, so he's not a really arahant, so he simply left away. Then now king has gone, group has gone. Now this arahant has a student. So students want to have everything, to get recognition, to have my monastery as the best monastery, we have to have best internet facility. Fortunately, during the King Saddhatissa, at that time no internet. But today, if someone is coming, definitely we are going to ask 5G, 4G is not enough. Maybe have to have a fiber optic. Still, Mithirigal doesn't have fiber optic, so we hope to have fiber optic. We can ask. So the student was blaming the teacher now. Bhante, why did you do like that? I mean, you should have behaved the same person. You see, you have lost the opportunity. King has come to recognize this monastery as a, royal monastery, Raja Mahavihar. So the king has come to give that title, to give a Raja Mahavihar. But you have spoiled the whole situation. So the student was not happy. Now the time going on, this real arahant, so he is living in a very peaceful life, and he has come to the end of his life, and he thought, okay, if king has kind of a wrong understanding about me, that is also not good. Let me show that I have something, I have realized the Dhamma, but at the end, after the death. So what he did, as far as I can remember, that he make a determination after passing away. His, corpse may not get burned till the king come. He made such a determination. So others didn't know that. So he made such a determination. Now people get together and trying to burn the corpse. Not burning. So other people are coming, they are putting this and that. Maybe they have fixed LP gas cylinder, still not burning. Still not burning. So ultimately the news go to the king. Now king was really surprised. So there's a kind of a situation at this particular monastery. I also went, but he's not a really arahant. But that's kind of a situation. That particular person, that monk has passed away, but now they can't burn the corpse. Let me go and check. Let me do it. So everyone else tried but failed, but king go and try, burnt. So then everybody knew. So this particular monk is a special monk who has made such a determination. Through that only they knew he is an arahant. So you can see, they don't want to show really. They don't want to become public. They don't want to show off that I am an arahant, I am so and so, I am with this attainment, I am with that attainment. So that is a typical mundane way of showing ourselves, no? Say if you have a degree, so you want to show off. You are putting it onto your curriculum. So you are putting, those words, rather letters at the end of your name. We need to show off. We need to show that I am a special person. So that ignorance is uprooted. That craving uprooted in an arahant. So they are living as a very simple human beings. So that is what we need to understand. Okay, now we are coming to another, I am going little far from the time anyway. Now we are coming to the paggaha, exertion. So you are really enthusiastic. You are following the teaching for a long time. You can meditate for long hours. You can meditate without sleeping. Say during the day's time you are practicing, during the evening you are practicing, during night you are practicing. You don't feel like tired. So you are quite enthusiastic. So that also, sometimes you think, okay, now there are no defilements. I am so enthusiastic. I don't feel tired. Hours I can sit. You can think, okay, I am enlightened. And you may get attached to it and you are always expecting that kind of a motivation, that kind of a energy. You always expect. You think that it is throughout my life, this kind of a exertion may be available to me. So you are attached to it. So these things can happen. Now when, say at the beginning you have a lot of troubles. The practice is a kind of a struggle. But as you continue, there are situations, okay, now everything is doing well and you are also developed with fair amount of mindfulness, mind has a fair amount of concentration and you are able to pay attention to various phenomena and everything is clear. So then you are getting enthusiastic. You can sit for long hours. You don't feel tired. And now you think, okay, this kind of a practice should be available every time. So that is another Vipassana upakkilesa we might get wrong. And then something called upatthana. This is related with the mindfulness. So you have very sharp mindfulness and throughout the day you have mindfulness and very precisely you can see everything. You don't miss anything and you expect such skill throughout. So if that you lose that skill, you get upset, you get disappointed, you doubt, why I had this much of very powerful mindfulness, this kind of very precise mindfulness. I could be mindful from the very moment I wake up till I go to sleep. Throughout the day I have very precise mindfulness. There is no any unmindful moment. Why I have lost it? So we can get attached to this very sharp mindfulness even. So it is called upatthana as a vipassana upakkilesa. So when we develop these skills, actually remember all these are skills that we need to develop. Light if we get, we can use it. Wisdom we get, we can use it, useful. Piti, rapture, useful. Piti sambojjhanga. Passaddhi, tranquility is a useful quality. Sukha, happiness, useful quality. Adimokha, you are having emotionally aroused. It's a little bit, we can't say really useful, but you are firm in the practice. Paggaha, determined, fair amount of energy, exertion, useful, because otherwise you can't continue. Then upatthana, very precise mindfulness, continuous mindfulness, very useful. But if you attach to it, if you think it should be available throughout my life, that is where we go wrong. Or else you think that I am an enlightened person, because that's why I have this kind of very precise mindfulness, that is also we can go wrong. Then we come to the equanimity, upekha. So you have no kilesas. Say you are practicing diligently and no lust appearing in the mind. For recent past, you didn't get any lustful thought. During the recent past, you didn't notice any angry thought. During the recent past, you didn't feel any jealousy, any kind of greed. So mind appear like free from defilements. Then probably we might overestimate ourselves, thinking, now I am an arahant, now I am a non-returner. And on top of that, if you practice some samatha meditation, lot of concentration, high power concentration, so that also adds to the picture. It also prevents any defilements from coming up. So you very high chance available to overestimate ourselves, to think that I am enlightened, to think that I am a non-returner now. Actually, such things have happened. Actually, I can remember while I was in Navayana, I heard about a story. So they actually practice samatha concentration, very high samatha concentrations, and one monk, he is having such very powerful samatha concentration throughout the day. Say if you want to attain to that samatha concentration while you eat, it's still possible. Now we need a lot of practice now in order to attain some kind of a high concentration, but he doesn't. He immediately closes his eyes, the nimitta comes, immediately get absorbed. Such a skill available. And no lust for weeks, no lust. For weeks, no anger, no agitation, no restlessness. Very calm, very peaceful. And what do you think? He presumed, I am a non-returner now. And he went to the teacher, explained it, I have achieved, and teacher said no. Precisely mentioned, no, you are not. There are still defilements. So teacher has mentioned that, but the student didn't believe. So he left the monastery, went to a different monastery, he started teaching, and many other students start to come now. He's giving the real, he has practiced now anyhow. So he know jhana, he know the practice, samatha practice, he has hands-on experience. He's not really lying in the sense he know the technique. Only thing is he has overestimated, thinking that he is a non-returner. Now he started teaching, so many people are attracted. And now he is becoming a popular teacher. And there is one divorced lady doctor who is also used to get kamatahan. So ultimately ended up marrying both. So you can see how we overestimate ourselves. So these are not limited to the book. These are real facts. These are available even today. So we can go wrong. We can overestimate ourselves. We don't believe our teachers. We think I know. We think I am the best. We think I am a non-returner. We think I am a arahant. When teachers are telling you are not, we are not humble enough to accept it. So these things can happen. So therefore, these Vipassana upakkilesas actually happening to successful practitioners, not to the failures. because you are doing a lot of dedicated practice. So that is why you are gaining all these results. To the successful practitioners, these are happening. And you get attached to that, and you overestimate based on those, and then you go wrong. So that is where we have to be very humble in our practice. That is where we always have to live on the ground. Underestimate ourselves, as Most Venerable Matara Jnanarama Mahathero mentioned. Underestimate ourselves. Not overestimation, rather underestimate. Even if you have something, underestimate, not overestimate. Because underestimation helps you to move forward, to think, okay, I still may have defilements. I still may have something to do. Still I need to consult a teacher. Still I better be with the teacher. Still I better be with the other fellow monks, other fellow practitioners. So, because when you are being in a group, definitely you get a lot of disturbances. You might get sort of cheated. You might get sometimes not being respected. There may be some personality clashes, many troubles. So those all typical lifetime ups and downs helps you to understand where you are. It is not really while at the sitting position that you can understand what are the defilements available. So as you move forward, there are no defilements, while you are sitting, because you are well prepared. So your mind is well prepared and you are sitting cross-legged. You are with fair amount of established mindfulness. No defilements are coming. But now suppose you ended up Kalalgoda retreat. Now you are going to the three-wheeler, and you get on to the three-wheeler, and he asks, okay, madam, I need 500 rupees to go from this end to the other end. And then you then you get down from at your home. Now he is asking 600 rupees. How the fellow asking 600 rupees? He promised me just 500 rupees. No, madam, this is too far. I thought this time you can't go for 500. I definitely need 600. Now you get angry. But when you are leaving Kalalgoda, you had no defilement. You thought you are an unreturner. But the three-wheel man has taught the lesson, you are not. He is the Kammatthana teacher now. He is the teacher. It is not me. He is the teacher. He has really shown you the teaching. You are not an unreturner. You are still with anger. So therefore, likewise, we have to sort of live on the ground and be with the others and face life situations rather than escaping from them. We have to be with the challenges and how our mind is reacting. And we need to see whether mind is again going and get attached, again we get angry, again we get lustful. So in order to get such situations, the conducive environment has to be there. So three-wheel man should behave like that. Then only we get really agitated. Then only we get angry. While being here, no one maybe make you angry. So likewise, so these are the areas really helps us to understand who we are, where we are. It's very difficult to especially say by a teacher, okay, now you have achieved this, let me sign the certificate. So this is, you have achieved this. Very unlikely. Those are sort of delusions. So if you think that Venerable Sariputta couldn't do it, but today's teacher can do it, very unlikely. We can't verify someone else's mind just through talk. There are special suttas actually mentioned by the Buddha to verify. And it is through long-term observation and through seeing how he is reacting to difficult situations, not the typical, mundane type of activities, but when he is really facing life-challenging situations, how he is reacting, how he is facing, how he is tackling those very, very difficult situations. So if he is handling them really properly, without getting panic, without getting agitated, so that probably we can say his mind is fairly stable, fairly matured. So therefore it is very difficult to assure just by talking, just by looking, just by seeing someone else's concentration, just by seeing someone else's posture, just by seeing someone else's way of behavior, very difficult. As King Saddhatissa couldn't verify that Arahant, since he was drawing pictures on the floor, very difficult. And the last Upakkilesa is called Nikanti, that is actually the one making the trouble. Nikanti is the attachment. So all previous ones are the skills. All previous 9 are the skills. Light is a kind of a result of concentration. Piti is a result of concentration and understanding. Knowledge, jnana, is a result, very good result. Tranquility, another good result. Happiness, sukha, is another good result. Adimokka, having kind of firmness in your mind, another result. Having exertion, very good virya, effort, relentless effort, another good result. Having very precise mindfulness, very good result. Then equanimity, another good result. But the last one is one making the everything spoiled because of Nikanti. We get attached to it. We get attached to the previous results, the skills, achievements. And this attachment helps to make a self. This attachment leads to make an ego, a person, thinking that I am the best, thinking that I am someone, a special person. So these are explained in the books, are quite valid and something that we have to be cautious. So with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Actually, we spent 1.5 hours, but worth discussing. So with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for attentive listening. Okay, so today also there's a sharing of merits. Today breakfast dana was offered by Mrs. Ruberu. May she attains Nibbana, Sukha Patipada, Kibba Binya. Today lunch dana was offered by Mr. and Mrs. Pushpakumara Gunasekara to offer merits to late Mr. Henry Gunasekara of Matara. So these are the sharing of merits, notes I have received. And so today also we have spent some time discussing Dhamma, learning Dhamma, practicing Dhamma, listening to Dhamma. And with these ways that we were able to accumulate a lot of merits, let's share these merits with all the past living relatives, with all the celestial beings, and whoever in need of merits. And similarly, we will wish ourselves to know the Buddha's teaching, to not to really go for any kind of misleading, and to understand Buddha's teaching properly, to have proper path, fruition and Nibbana. With that good wishes, let's recite the traditional verses. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatacha amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummattha devanaga mahiddika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkhantu mamparang. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang vo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බාන පත්තියා